Hi, and welcome to my classroom. My name is Christopher Youngren, and I'm a middle school ELA teacher in Tucson, Arizona. So the question is, how do you make story structure exciting? How do you make literary analysis something that kids give a good gall darn about? Well, maybe you don't, but I have found some tricks. We're discussing it in class this week, and I kind of tricked them. I told them that we were going to do this whole escape room sort of project, and then I laid literary analysis on them first thing Monday morning. But it is going to lead ultimately into an escape room project where they have to use the literary analysis clues in order to break out of the escape room. But I found that the best way to teach story structure or literary analysis to students is to tap into something that they're already familiar with, rather than just use these sort of abstract terms of exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. We use stories that they're already familiar with. So Harry Potter or Star Wars or something like that. Three Little Pigs, typically pop culture I think they find a little bit more exciting, especially in middle school. We don't necessarily want to use a fairy tale, but certainly in elementary school, something like The Little Red Hen or The Three Little Pigs would work perfectly well. But so we start off talking about exposition, and we say, well, this is where Harry Potter is living on Privet Drive, and he lives his life locked in a cupboard by his terrible aunt and uncle, and he has a horrible cousin named Dudley who generally eats everything in sight and makes an overall nuisance of himself, or Luke Skywalker lives a pretty boring, meaningless existence on Tatooine on a farm where nothing ever really happens. And then we get to the inciting event, right? And the inciting event is something that happens that propels the plot into action. So Harry perhaps receives the letter from Hogwarts that says, hey dude, guess what, man? You're actually like a wizard and stuff, so why don't you come to our wizard school and do like wizard stuff and learn how to make things float and stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm quoting that letter verbatim. Or Luke Skywalker comes back to his farm to discover that his aunt and uncle have been murdered. I bet Harry probably wishes that had been done to the Dursleys, but that's a completely different story. And his farm is destroyed, and this propels him into action. And this is where the rising action begins, right? And we meet secondary characters. So Harry meets Ron and Hermione, he meets Draco Malfoy, Luke Skywalker meets Han and Leia and Chewbacca and R2-D2, C-3PO and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that brings us to something else that generally happens in the rising action. We sometimes meet a mentor. We sometimes meet a mentor or a teacher who helps our hero or protagonist along the way. And Harry meets Dumbledore, of course, and other teachers that help him out. Hagrid, certainly. And then we finally, things continue to progress, and we finally reach a point where the dramatic tension can't get any higher, and we reach the most exciting part of the plot. And of course, that is called the climax, the very tippy top of the rising action mountain, right? And so, Harry Potter has different climaxes into each book, and typically they involve some kind of face-off with Voldemort. Oh, and I'm sorry, let me step back one second. Of course, we have to point out during rising action that our hero generally meets the antagonist, right? The person that the hero is working against. And it's not always like an evil person. It's not always a bad guy, as it were, but it may be somebody who's just at odds with our hero, right? But we finally reach that climax where we reach the point of very highest tension. And for Luke Skywalker, maybe it's when they're flying in the original Star Wars to blow up the Death Star, and he finally embraces the power of the Force, and he believes in it with all of his heart, and that allows him to shoot the torpedo into the exhaust tube and blow up the Death Star, right? And that also indicates a turning point for our characters. Our character, Luke, for example, has learned to truly let go. He's given up a little bit of the cynicism, perhaps, that he experienced prior to this point in the story, and he's really kind of given into a force beyond his understanding. And so then after the climax, we come into the falling action, right? And this is where We see the consequences of the climax. You know, what happens now that the Death Star has been destroyed, for example. Everybody rejoices, you know, the immediate threat has been vanquished, and our heroes rejoice. And then we finally get to the resolution where all the minor conflicts have been resolved, and everybody in Star Wars, for example, goes to the big award ceremony, and they get their medals and whatnot. Harry goes home to another dreary summer at the Dursleys on Privet Drive. But there are lessons that have been learned through the course of the story. And there are changes that have occurred. And it's nice at this point, I find, to point out that only through conflict does real change ever occur, not just in characters, but for any of us. And I use the coronavirus and this whole time of quarantine as an example. And I say, so think about all the things that have happened to us, you know, through the course of the last 6 months. It's been a real struggle for a lot of us, and it hasn't been easy, but we've learned some things about ourselves, and we've probably grown a little bit and changed a little bit, maybe become more independent a little bit, and it's through this adversity that we really reach a point of change and really discover new things about ourselves. So the point of all this is, the best way that I've found to teach literary analysis or plot structure is to tap into things that the kids are already interested in. Harry Potter, Fortnite, Minecraft, Star Wars, whatever the case may be. Marvel, you know, Marvel would be another great thing to use for this. So really take the time to understand whatever it is the kids are interested in any given day, because it's not going to help you to use things that, you know, like He-Man references, you know, or Pac-Man references, if they're like 30-year-old and stale references. They got to be things that the kids are interested in now and today. And by utilizing these things, it's really going to help support whatever lesson you're teaching, in this case, story structure or literary analysis, and it's really going to hopefully allow the lesson to sink in much more strongly than if you just speak in terms of exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Okay, so thanks for listening today. I hope you like what I have to say. If so, please do hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep them coming. I hope you're well out there. Stay well, be safe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.